2016 was a year of political dick-slapping, so to speak, with the likes of Brexit, President Trump, and countless celebrity deaths. There was hope that the next chapter in the Gregorian calendar would promise a better year, and people were pretty optimistic at the notion that God had just rolled a one. For a few hours. Almost immediately after the clock struck 12 for the first time in the year, there was an attack on an Istanbul nightclub by ISIL that killed dozens of people, and that acted as a bit of a precursor for things to come. And President-elect Donald Trump opened with a Happy New Year's threat to his many enemies and those who have fought me and lost so badly they just don't know what to do. He capped this off with a lonely, confused love. It sounds like he didn't know what to do with the end of the message, like he'd heard the word before or used it to refer to his money. Actually, if he had used it to refer to his money, then I guess he has experienced tremendous personal loss. By about 2 p.m. of January 1st, we could already be pretty sure that 2017 was going to be the upward spike we collectively thought it would be. So much for team spirit. Relative to Australia, Obama took his final day of office on January 20th. It would later turn out that he wrote a letter for Trump that was very long, as opposed to other succession letters, which, if he's concerned about the future of the country, is probably not a good approach, given, I don't know, getting Trump to read things isn't exactly the best course of action, you know?
That one looks a lot longer than the ones that I've seen.
It was long. It was complex.
It had lots of big words. And on that same day, tragedy struck Burke Street Mall, when a drug-addled man named Dimitri crashed his car through pedestrians, killing 4 people, one of which was only 3 months old. It was a terrible tragedy, and devastating to the families of the victims involved. But of course, the non-fictional Dolores Umbridge, otherwise known as Pauline Hanson, blamed the entire incident on terrorism. Terrorism is the use of violence and intimidation, especially against civilians, in the pursuit of political aims. I'd argue that Pauline Hanson probably has a lot more of a political aim than the drug-addled driver. And all through the month, President-elect Trump's cabinet picks were going through ethic hearings and failing miserably. Some were crazy conspiracists, some had ties to Russia, and some just weren't qualified for the job that they were selected to do. Such as neurosurgeon Ben Carson, who was put in charge of urban development. Maybe Trump's more of a racist than we thought. However, it did give Bernie Sanders plenty of viral success when he was interviewing all the different candidates with this horrible sense of despair about him. But Bernie Sanders, of course, lost out to James Corden. The entire thing was rigged by the CBS. And Trump struggled to get musicians to attend his inauguration gala. Musician after musician, A-lister after A-lister, they were all turning him down. Until he got Bruce Springsteen's E Street Band back together to perform at his... What? B Street Band? A cover band? Who, by the way, dropped out. So, the world asked itself, what's the next best thing to a Bruce Springsteen cover band to perform at this incredible event? The band 3 Doors Down! Remember them from 10 or so years ago? You know what? He's not my president, but unlike all those A-listers, I want to get into the American spirit and take this opportunity for what it is. Let's fucking do this.
Take it from me, they don't care if you're lonely. As you can see, they don't care if you're scared. Your heart is the only friend you have in this whole world.
And when the footage of him banging his head to the music came out, that was... oh, it was like he was one of us, unqualified to be president. And Kryptonite was a very appropriate song to play because, you know, we'll need it, judging by Trump's cabinet picks. When the inauguration came, it felt a bit like America had died and we were attending the funeral. Not that that many people attended. There were gloomy faces all around, and Trump's speech sounded a bit dictatory.
And the crime, and the gangs, and the drugs that have stolen too many lives and robbed our country of so much unrealized potential.
No one had predicted that kind of behavior. And during the day, the Secret Service took away his phone because they didn't want him tweeting during the inauguration, which, now that I think about it, is extraordinarily likely. But don't worry, he's gonna keep tweeting because he's replacing the Secret Service with his own private security firm. Like Hitler did. And that explains all those comparisons about dictators and that. You know, because Hitler built lots of roads, and Trump's gonna have to build lots of roads to support all the American cars that are gonna be built now that every single nation wants to sever ties with America. Except that one nation. You know the one. In any case, Trump was ready to get to work and prove his naysayers wrong on Monday. But let's be honest, you wouldn't want to work on a weekend, you know, unless you had a really important job like a paramedic or a air traffic controller or a leader of the free world. But as Trump started to instill his campaign promises through executive orders, much like other presidents have done, women's rallies began to spring up, not just from state to state in America, but from nation to nation. This was as much a protest to suffrage as it was to, you know, Trump sexually harassing women and then becoming president. It's a thing he's got going on. And this month sizzled to a halt when Trump imposed heavy visa restrictions on a lot of Middle Eastern nations. This was especially controversial given that about 7 of them had never had anyone in them who had killed an American citizen in a terrorist attack. What even is this series, man? All you're doing is talking about America. America sucks. Well, don't worry, I'm gonna take some time away from the apocalypse to talk about the films of the month. Now, normally January's a bit of a cesspool for studios to dump their shitty movies into when no one's looking and let them flop in peace. And one of these is A Dog's Purpose. A Dog's Purpose is a terrible looking film about a bunch of dogs dying in succession that no one really cared about. That is until shocking footage emerged of a bunch of professional dog handlers doing their job. Thank God that TMZ, the heroes of this goddamn planet, were there to report this horrible animal abuse. And as pundits protested the film that they wouldn't have seen anyway, it soon became clear that TMZ was using this opportunity to make the footage seem abusive through the manipulation of editing. Who'd have known? In fact, what really happened is that they were trying to get the dog into the water and the dog didn't want to go into the water, so then they wrapped shooting for the day. Why listen to real news when there's exciting news? Very different things, because exciting news, you're given like a bunch of filmmakers abusing a dog and there's a clear narrative and a villain that I can understand. And while Trump wants to appeal the Affordable Care Act with no clear replacement, which would leave millions in debt and possibly millions dying, given that while it was a flawed system, it did lead to the millions of lives being saved. But wait, it didn't save the lives of those dogs! Boo! The LA premiere was promptly cancelled by the studio, not that anyone was really going to attend anyway, but that was still an obsession of Trump's, attendance. In fact, he'd used his first press conference to actually lie about the size of the crowd, saying it was the biggest in history, even though there's literal statistical evidence to counteract that. Let alone this widely shared photo of Obama's first inauguration compared to Trump's. And a picture can say 1,000 words, which you'd think would be good for Trump, because normally he gets about 3 sentences in and then says, "I'm bored!" And even a week later, he was bragging to ABC, showing a picture of his crowd inauguration size. It's not only a blatant lie, but it also speaks to the discrepancy between what Trump thinks his presidency is and how people reflect it, and it's something that he's apparently very obsessed about according to inside sources. Those sources are also saying that his advisors are trying to get him to move on from the inauguration thing. He isn't. And after visiting Putin, he headed to England to meet with Theresa May, because, you know, after fucking one world leader, he wanted to go to a country where the leaders have actually fucked the country. Sort of a victory lap.
Great respect for Mexico. I love the Mexican people. I work with the Mexican people all the time.
Yeah, of course, they raised your kids. And sure enough, Trump's approval rating was sitting about 36% by the end of the week. And unlike the reality TV from which he came, you can't vote him off at the end of the week. I mean, that's the whole reason he came to power, isn't it? Americans elect the person they think could be the president in a movie. And this time they decided to go for the comedy route.